I were in the studio, I guess mid-90s, another time, we had Paul Williams and James did a record together. I don't know, do you remember that record?
1996.
There you go. That's about the time when I moved back to town. Anyway, it was kind of unique because we had Paul standing, I walked looking up to the right, they were facing each other about 3 feet apart from each other. You remember that? They were facing each other. And James would he would treat that song like he would any other song. He thought about the lyrics, he thought about what it was about, and you know, when y'all did this, it reminded me of that session we did, and that record, it kind of stuck with me. But he could take a spiritual record, a gospel record, and deliver it the same way, with the same passion and purpose.
That was really telling that, you know, Paul at the time hadn't been doing bluegrass.
Right.
And, you know, came back, and the person that he wanted to sing with was James. He had his choice of, you know, anybody in all of bluegrass. I mean, he picked James.
I know James, right when I got hired to go to work with James, that record was fixing to come out. Well, or it had just come out. And James told me, he said, I want you to listen to this. He said, this is something I truly cherish. He said, when Paul called me and we started talking about getting this thing together to do, you know, James said they played a festival in Denton, North Carolina. And he said, Doyle come up to him and said, Doyle looked at him and said, son, said, what makes you think you're so special if you're going to get to cut this record with Paul? And James said, Doyle, don't be mad at me, Paul called me. But Doyle was ribbing him. Doyle was proud of him.
Yeah.
Doyle told him, said, well, said, son, said, you live your life like Jimmy. He said, you probably ought to sing with Paul on this. Said, you probably fit him better than I woman.
Oh,
But that was a great gospel project too. It really was. I mean, of course, Paul singing is just great and always has been. Seems like he's gotten better. But James fit him. I mean, he fit him like a glove. He really did. As a matter of fact, James' band worked on that record at the time too. That was Jason and Adam Poindexter was on there. I think Jason Carter played fiddle on that album. Yeah, he sure did.
He had just started with Dale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Jason played his last festival was played for Tom there, and that's when he left Melvin Goins and went to work for that. Pretty neat.
Well, we should probably bring this to an end. Maybe we can have one more song. But thank you all for coming. You know, all of us, as you can tell, there's a lot of love for James and appreciation, and you know, this was sort of our way of helping to celebrate his life and remember him and share some of these stories with you all. And you know, as you go around, anybody that knew James for a little bit has stories, and I'm sure we could have done a whole festival, a couple of things that it would have been really easy, and most of the stories would have been really fun and enjoyable.
And everybody comes to me all the time saying you ought to write a book.
Yeah.
And I said, well, there's a lot of this stuff I can't print. But
Yeah, and I'm still, when I wrote to Becky a little while ago, or maybe told her on the phone, but whenever I hear a song that I really like, and they're usually story songs, I immediately think of James and want to pick up the phone, and because he would appreciate it, and there aren't that many people these days out there that I think would.
You would send him songs. We'd be sitting in the parking lot and he'd listen to it. Damn it, Ken, you did it again.
So I sort of got fired a couple times too.
I'm going to say one quick thing on this, and I'm going to say this on behalf of everybody sitting here, especially with Steve and Ken and Danny and myself. I said this at the funeral, and Becky talked to me, and she wanted me to speak at James' funeral, and I told her I really wanted to. And it was an easy thing to do, but I am going to say this once again. I'm going to echo the very thing we started out talking about in this today, James. James, to sum him up, I think best, I mean, not just a singer, but James was truly a people's person, and that's what I said. And like you say, from the second you met him, you loved him. He had that glow about him, he had that charisma about him when he met someone, it was always special. That always stuck with you, and you always you could see him if he felt great or felt his worst, he still, as soon as he connected with you, and there's no other way you can remember him but that way. And he touched the hearts of so many people with his music, but he touched the hearts of so many people just being James the person. And I seen that.
I can't really think of any other artists that I've seen who cried on stage but also had the audience crying.
Yeah.
You know, that was
Yeah.
something he could really reach out.
He
You know.
interpreted it to the people.
I've seen people come to that man's record table, and I mean, I worked it faithfully, and I know Danny knows and Ken knows and stuff, and it was an honor for me to get to do that because of so many fans and stuff of what I got to see and be a part of. But people would come and share story after story with him, sit down there, and I mean, they'd opened up their whole life to him and have never seen them in a walk of life at all, you know, and he would, and James said, you remember this couple right here? Remember what she went through? Well, no, James, not exactly. She's got kidney trouble. And I'm like, how do you remember? She sat down and talked to me. And I'm like, man, you know, I told him one time, I said, for the way you are, I said, toward people, I said, I would give anything in me just to have that connection. I said, that's your gift from God. And I said, that's people. And I said, buddy, I said, I've never seen nobody like you. My mother and dad, family and stuff, they loved him just like he was one of their very own. And there's so many of us, and I mean, you know, being a band member was one thing, but, you know, when James passed away, I mean, honest to goodness, good, bad, all, I lost probably one of the most precious family members I ever had in my life. And that's just the way me and him grew toward each other. And for that, like I say, I'm ever grateful. And that's the James King that I love, and that's the James King I remember. You know, I was part of some of the greatest accolades ever, you know, in his career. And I got to live through those memories, and I carry that with me every day of my life. But I carry my friendship, and the friendship of all the people in this room right here is because of that man. And no one can take that away from me. So God bless the Lord.
Yeah, one more song, and then